Hello and welcome to MTG Burgeoning, a yo channel for all things magic. In this video, not only are we going to add the final 10 creature cards with mana values of 8 or more into the Momir Vig Cube, we are going to add the final 10 cards into our 1500 card Momir Vig Cube. Greetings and salutations to the MTG BC. You are the MTG Burgeoning community. Welcome back to the final episode of our no longer ongoing Momir Vig Cube Series. This is our 80th installment as we took 80 videos to fill our 1500 card Momir Vig Cube. If you are unfamiliar with the goals or the purpose of this series, or you would just like a refresher, you can search in the description below for the link to MTG Burgeoning's introduction to the Momir Vig Cube. And while you're down there in the description, you can also click the link to Cube Cobra, where you can view the entire 1500 creature card cube as it stands right now. All right, what a ride, MTGBC. What a ride. More than a year. Over 80 videos it took. Well, 80 videos on the dot, not including the introduction video. 80 videos. This is the final one. The last 10 cards are going in, and we're going to kick things off with a mono black avatar. It is Torgar, Famine Incarnate. It's a 7/6. We're going to skip right past the additional cost to cast this spell clause because, well, every creature from the Momir Vig Cube is summoned randomly, so we will never have the ability to cast this for anything less than the 8 mana it's going to need to generate a copy of it from the Momir Vig Cube. When Torgar enters the battlefield, up to one target player's life total becomes half their starting life total, rounded down. So of course this is going to be very game dependent. If we're down to our last few life, then we're most likely going to target ourselves and bring our life total up to 12. If not, then perhaps an opponent is running away with a lifelink engine that we can bring their life total down to 12. Where it's all going to depend on what's going on in the game, and after its ETB trigger, we end up with a 7/6 vanilla. All right, next up could be a potential game winner. It is mono blue. It is Trench Gorger. It's a 6/6 Leviathan with trample, and when it enters the battlefield, we may search our library for any number of land cards and exile them. Then we shuffle our library. If we do, Trench Gorger's power and toughness each become equal to the number of cards exiled this way. So if we're going through a normal game of Momir Vig and we have, 45 to 50 land cards in our, well, let's see, turn 8, 6, 14. Let's say we have about 40 lands in our library. We'll play it conservatively, figuring that we've gone through 20 cards in our library already. If Trench Gorger comes down and we're near the end game, because let's face it, we're generating enough mana to get to the 8+ tier, who's to say we don't empty 30 lands from our library and make this a 30/30 trampler? I would think without any creatures with activated abilities on our opponent's sides of the battlefield that could interact with Trench Gorger, I think we're going for the knockout blow. We'll slim our library down big time for the purposes of one-shotting one opponent after another with Trench Gorger. Our next creature is the first creature to have a mana value north of 8 in this video. It's a colorless edition. It is Triplicate Titan. It's a 9/9 golem with flying, vigilance, and trample, and when it dies, we create a 3/3 golem with flying, a 3/3 golem with vigilance, and you guessed it, a 3/3 golem with trample. So we're eventually, if it comes down to it, going to get 3/3/3s to replace the 9/9 if this golem dies. And having the vigilance allows it to sit back and be a defender after it attacks in combat, of course, because the flying and the trample, we're definitely sending that bad boy into combat. But the vigilance is very nice so that it can stop our opponents on the eventual crackback. Creature number 4, we're going back-to-back colorless creatures. I hope I said Triplicate Titan was colorless earlier. Sometimes I slip in monocolored for some reason. All right, back-to-back colorless creatures. This time it's Ulamog's Crusher. It's an 8/8 Eldrazi with Annihilator 2, which means whenever this creature attacks, defending player sacrifices 2 permanents. And Ulamog's Crusher must attack each combat if able. So, if the game is really stalling out, Ulamog's Crusher, with its big 8/8 beefiness, can have some opponents sacrifice some permanents and maybe take down some creatures as well. The halfway point of our video is here with a mono black edition. It is Void Beckoner. Yes, it has a cycling ability, but it's never going to be in our hand to cycle, so it's only ever going to be an 8/8 Death Touch coming out of the cube. All right, our 6th creature of our video today is our first multicolored edition, and it is Vampiric Dragon, going all the way back to the days of Odyssey. It's a 5/5 vampire dragon with flying, and whenever a creature dealt damage by Vampiric Dragon this turn is put into a graveyard, we put a +1/+1 counter on Vampiric Dragon. We can pay 1 and a red mana to have Vampiric Dragon deal 1 damage to target creature. But note that this is an activated ability that we can only activate as long as we have that red mana. So be sure to diversify those basic land libraries so that we can ping some creatures, make Vampiric Dragon bigger and bigger, and then eventually send it into combat and win the game. Speaking of winning the game, not so much for its ability to one-shot an opponent, but perhaps through its ability to swarm the opponent's battlefield with countless sapling creatures. That is Verdant Force, a 7/7 elemental that during each player's upkeep, not just ours, this is each player's upkeep, we create a 1/1 sapling creature token. A few rounds of turns gives us enough creatures to swarm an opponent to potentially knock that opponent out of the game if their life totals are in a perilous state. 3 creatures left. We're going back to mono black once again. And this time it is Villas, Broker of Blood. Here we have another 8-drop, and it's an 8/8 with flying. Of course, it's a demon. We can pay a black mana and pay 2 life to have target creature get -1/-1 until end of turn. Whenever we lose life, we draw that many cards. The card drawing ability is going to be important as we get later in the game. There are going to be turns in Momir Vig where there's only 1 card in our hand, and we have to make the choice of whether or not we want to play that card as our land for turn or use it to discard in order to summon a copy of a creature from the Momir Vig Cube. Villas helps to make that decision-making process a lot easier by putting more and more cards into our hand. Creature number 1,498 overall and number 9 in this video. Back to the days of Rivals of Ixalan, we have Zakama, Primal Calamity. It's a 9/9 Elder Dinosaur with Vigilance, Reach, and Trample, and 3 different activated abilities. For 2 and a red mana, Zakama deals 3 damage to target creature. For 2 and a green mana, we destroy target artifact or enchantment. Please note that this is Momir Vig, so it's nothing but creatures all of the time. But also keep in mind that some of those creatures could be artifact creatures, some of those creatures could be enchantment creatures, and there could be on the battlefield some stray rocks or clue or food or treasure tokens that Zakama would gladly like to destroy. And lastly, we can pay 2 and 1 white mana to gain 3 life. Also note that each of these 3 activated abilities require colored mana to activate, so be sure you diversify that basic land library. And here it comes, folks. Creature card number 1500, filling the cube to 100% capacity, bringing this video and this series to a close. It can only be Zetalpa, Primal Dawn, a 4/8 Elder Dinosaur with flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, and indestructible. What a way to close out this video. What a way to close out the series. All right, there you have it, MTGBC. We have completed the Momir Vig Cube. All 1,500 cards are now up and ready for your perusal. Let me know in the comment section below which are your favorites. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.